For NYup, Syracuse.com, this is Matt Parrino, joined by Ryan Talbot, and we are in the free and clear, Mr. Talbot. No bills for 5 weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a different feeling.
It's a very different feeling. I mean, it's been nonstop. People, when I took this job, a lot of people told me, yeah, there's no off season in the NFL. You'll learn that pretty quickly. And, there hasn't been. There's always something, to talk about, to break down, to, cover when it comes to an NFL team. And for the Bills, it's been a very active off season, coming off a 6-10 season. So as we sit here about a month out from training camp, I thought let's put out some bold predictions. I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I'm going to be gone for about 10 days. So I wanted to kind of lay the smack down, if you will, before I go with some of my bold takes. And I wanted to give you the opportunity for some of your bold takes as well. Why don't you kick us off? What is your number one bold prediction of the 2019 season for the Bills?
The Buffalo Bills make the playoffs. I think that's a bold prediction after going 6-10, like you said, from one season ago. They just added so many free agents, and yeah, they weren't necessarily superstar additions, but they filled so many different needs that they had. They have a lot of depth across the board on offense and on defense now. I think that they had some talented rookies fall into their lap. And I also like the schedule this year. I think they have a favorable schedule. I think they could get off to a hot start early, going against the Jets, the Giants, and the Bengals. All three, have their own issues kind of going on, or have kind of had some different matters this offseason. Obviously, with the Jets, they had a lot of turnover there with the GM getting fired. But even if you look at that roster, it's going to be Le'Veon Bell's first game back. There could be a lot of rust there. Chris Herndon, their starting tight end, is going to be suspended for that game. The Giants game, who knows who's going to be the quarterback? I'm willing to bet it'll be Eli Manning, but there's been a lot of Daniel Jones hype. And I think the Bills would love to see a rookie quarterback under center in week 2 when they play the Giants. And then obviously in week 3 against the Bengals, the news that we all saw today, Jonah Williams is going to miss the entire season with a shoulder injury. So there's little things like that already happening for these three teams. I think those are 3 winnable games, and I think they just have a lot of winnable games overall this year based on the divisions that they're playing against and just that overall schedule.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think, you want to temper expectations a little bit because, listen, this was a 6-10 team last year. A couple bounces go a different way, and you could be even talking about maybe a 4-win team. But I think what Sean McDermott has proven over the course of time, we've talked a lot about this, is that he gets the most out of his players. He has an improved team. He has an improved, potentially a defense that may even improve as well. One of my big takes or predictions, bold predictions, is on Jordan Poyer, and I think that, I'll throw that out there this year. I think that he's going to be a Pro Bowler in 2019. I think that Jordan Poyer had a very quiet 4 interceptions last season, and he, coming off of 5 in 2017, he has assimilated into this Bills scheme under Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier so well. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde play so well together. There's so much synergy across this defense. And I think, you go back to, some of these offensive numbers from a year ago and, the 30th ranked offense and how bad this passing game was at times. But you saw the steady improvement as, things settled down and everybody got acquainted with each other. I think that that's important. I think that an offensive coordinator and quarterback relationship is important. It needs to take time to develop. And I think that, you're right on the money there because I think this defense is going to get better, and I think that's going to lead them to the playoffs in 2019.
Yeah, Jordan Poyer kind of flies under the radar. Micah Hyde was obviously the big name when they signed both safeties a few seasons ago. He came right onto the scene and made the Pro Bowl quickly with the Bills, made a name for himself. But Poyer has been just as solid ever since joining the Bills, and that tandem is one of the best in the NFL, maybe the best safety tandem in the NFL right now. So I'm hoping Poyer gets the recognition that he so deserves. His contract, he still has a few years left here in Buffalo, but he's also one of the best values on this team, the best bangs for the buck, so to speak, based on what he brings to this team. So I think that, he is someone that could certainly be deserving of that Pro Bowl bid in 2019.
And you go back to your first one, and I agree, and that's something that I'm definitely going to add because I'm right there with you. I think that they have the potential to make a playoff run this season, but I think that it comes down to this schedule, and that early part of the schedule is very nice, and some of the tougher games as you go along are, some of them are at home, and obviously that Pittsburgh game, that Cleveland game on the road, those will be tough games, but the Eagles have to come here, the Redskins are coming here. Dallas on the road obviously will be a tough game, but it's a manageable schedule, and I think that there could be a situation that unfolds where Josh Allen and his offense have some success early on against some of these lesser teams early, and Cincinnati's got a decent defense. I mean, you dialed things back to last training camp, and Josh Allen struggled quite a bit against that defense. Obviously, they had their struggles at times last year, but I think that if you can build some cohesion, build some momentum, as you get into that fourth game, I think most people are circling that Patriots game right away. That's going to be a loss, right? But I think that if you go on the road, you win 2, you take out the Bengals at home, you're 3-0 staring at that Patriots game, and that just becomes, with Josh Allen as your franchise quarterback, one of the biggest games, in recent memory. I mean, even going back to the playoff season, because of the potential that could be unlocked with a win in that spot against the Patriots.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Fans have been waiting for it. They want to win the division. They want to make the playoffs. But they also want to unseat the Patriots more than anything else. And it just seems like the Bills, for whatever reason, struggle so much more against New England than even the Jets and the Dolphins. And I'm sure those teams haven't had great success over the last decade, but they've definitely had a few more wins than Buffalo. Miami's had a few lucky breaks go their way, like the Miami Miracle. The Jets played them tough under Rex Ryan. And even since Rex Ryan's days, it just seems like they always play him tough at least once a year. But the Bills just seem to be on the wrong side of that, where maybe they get one game that's close for a little while, but the Bills seem to always be on the wrong side of that. So if they can enter that game 3-0, maybe they can have that confidence and pull off that upset. That's something that fans have been waiting for a long time, though, to say, okay, not only are they a playoff contender, but they're a team that could actually push the Patriots maybe for the AFC East.
Mm-hmm. My big headline grabber, obviously, with Josh Allen, I think he's going to go over 4,000 yards this year. That's my number one bold prediction. I think that you look at what he was able to do in the passing game with, a limited set of weapons around him, a very substandard offensive line, and the upgrades in and of itself, I think that lends itself to a production jump for Josh Allen this year. Now, you add a weapon like John Brown, another down-the-field stretch, and keep in mind that Josh Allen's a quarterback that isn't shy about letting the ball go down the field. I think that he may rely a little bit less on his legs in 2019, which also will help him bump over that 4,000-yard mark. And I think that, you look at a Mitchell Trubisky, who was in that, 32 to 3,500-yard range last season, and he had a significant jump from his rookie season. But he doesn't go down the field as much. He's more of a dink and dunk type of passer. And I think in a league where, it definitely favors the offense and favors the quarterback, I think that with this envisioned offensive line, especially with Mitch Morse in the middle, known for his pass blocking, and I think that that's going to be a significant upgrade to this offense overall because of how many problems they had at that position last year. I think that it just lends itself to Josh Allen putting up, some pretty impressive numbers, considering that most people I don't think are expecting the big passing numbers this season.
Yeah, I think that's a very bold take. I mean, I know he only had 11 starts last season, but you're pretty much saying he's going to double his passing yards because he had just over 2,000, about 2,074 passing yards as a rookie. So that's pretty bold, and it's possible. If the Bills are trying to play catch up or things like that in certain games, and they might have to pass more, that can lend itself to it. As you mentioned, they added a John Brown. They have a Robert Foster, who I named earlier this week as my prediction for Buffalo's, breakout player, a guy that I think could end up being a household name here, maybe a 1,000-yard receiver this year. They have Zay Jones. They have Cole Beasley. They even have a guy like Andre Roberts, who has stood out so far this year as a wide receiver, not just on special teams. So it's definitely possible. You have some running backs like LeSean McCoy that can catch the ball. You've seen a little bit of that from Singletary, so you could also drop it off of there. And who knows where you're going to get at the tight end position. Obviously, Dawson Knox could end up being the number one tight end right out of the gate. He's a very athletic guy, could create a lot of mismatches, but I also always temper my expectations at that tight end position, especially when it comes with a rookie in the fold.
Definitely. And, it's definitely a bold prediction. I think the more likelihood is that he maybe falls short of this. But, my thinking of this is that if the Bills believe that Josh Allen is an elite level quarterback, 12 quarterbacks last season went over 4,000 yards. Derek Carr was able to do it in Oakland, and the supporting cast around him wasn't excellent. Deshaun Watson, obviously he has DeAndre Hopkins, Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, two of the best receivers in the league. Eli Manning put up 4,200 yards last year. And, Odell Beckham obviously is there as well. But I think the point I'm trying to get at here is if you think that you have an elite level passer in Josh Allen, if you're confident in him, if you're confident in the play caller and Brian Dable, that I think that next step is letting him loose a little bit more in this passing game. And I think that an improved running game, they brought in some of the big blockers up front. Cody Ford, known for his run blocking. Quentin Spain, known for his run blocking. That I think that with the additions in the backfield, you get this running game going, open things up in the pass game. I think there's just too many components at play for him not to at least approach that number when you're talking about a second-year quarterback, a 7th overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, I think that's fair because you do, have to take the training wheels off, so to speak, with these young quarterbacks sooner rather than later. Let them see what they can do. I think that when he came back from his injury last year, he even, improved on those throws where in the beginning of the year you kind of cringed at some of the throws that he made and some of the interceptions that he threw. You didn't see as many of those head scratches. There were still a few here and there, but not as many. So, you build that trust up with the coaching staff. You let them drop it off to guys like Cole Beasley and let them pick up the yards after the catch. And all of a sudden, he can be accumulating more yards per game and maybe going over that 300-yard threshold more often than Bills fans are accustomed from seeing from their quarterbacks.
Definitely. All right, so hit us with your number 2 here. What do you got for your second bold prediction? I'm kind of putting Ryan on the spot here. I've had all day to work on this story that I'm putting out tomorrow, and I'm putting him on the spot after you took the kiddies to Toy Story 4 today. Bravo, by the way. How was it?
Hey, great movie, great flick. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Great. Hit us with number 2.
All right, number 2, LeSean McCoy rushes for over 1,000 yards in Buffalo. And maybe that doesn't seem like a bold prediction because really that doesn't average out to a lot of yards per game in the NFL in a 16-game season. But if you look at his stats from last year, a little over 500 yards, 3.2 yards per carry, the worst stats of his career, and all of a sudden you add a guy like Devin Singletary and you add Frank Gore and TJ Yeldon into the mix, and all of a sudden you're thinking, boy, I don't know how many carries he's even going to get. But I think this could actually end up helping him. I think it's going to help him stay fresh. I think that in the second half of games, he can rip off some big runs. Singletary is not that home run threat. I still think that LeSean McCoy can be. I still think that he can rip off some big runs even early in games with this new and improved offensive line. And like I said, with this mix of young and old backs working around him, I just think that it can work out in his favor where he surprises some people and really bounces back in a big way this year and kind of gets himself in position to possibly find himself in the Hall of Fame down the road. I think he just needs 1 or 2 more big seasons in the NFL. I think he can get one of them this year in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I think that this topic is so polarizing within, Bills nation and on social media. There's the camp that think that LeSean McCoy still has something left in the tank, and there's those that are so past being ready to move on. from him in favor of maybe a young guy like Devin Singletary and the committee that Brandon Beane has built behind LeSean McCoy. But I'm going to go the opposite way. I love your argument there, and you know, you could probably convince me of that if we were to sit at a bar for a couple hours before the start of the season, because you're right, he's been so dynamic and so electric over the course of his career. It wouldn't surprise me if he figured it out. But you know, the more you dig into, you know, the off season maneuvers that Brandon Beane has made, and you think about, you know, what they're doing as a franchise right now. Devin Singletary already getting run with the first team. Frank Gore, who's kind of taking over that leadership role. And you know, one of my bold predictions was that Devin Singletary is going to outgain LeSean McCoy in 2019. And you know, I think that's pretty bold, because I think that this team still feels like this team is. They still want LeSean McCoy to be that guy, and he could be that guy. But I think that with Devin Singletary, he's more of that workhorse type of back. He's young. He's got young legs. I know that he had a lot of carries in college, but he seems eager, ready to kind of, you know, take everything the Bills will give him. And it's going to be a short leash for McCoy. And then I think that that's more of where I'm at in terms of, you know, maybe the confidence not being so high, is that if he comes out and has a dud against the Jets and maybe struggles against the Giants, I think it's going to be tough for this regime wanting to see results, especially if it's impacting the production of that passing game, to stick with McCoy.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense as well. And Singletary, you know, has stood out early here in his time with the Bills, and I think if he can do it when the pads come on at training camp, and he continues to do it or during the preseason, he can make a case for himself that maybe he should not necessarily be the starter in terms of being the first running back out there on the field, but maybe see more snaps than maybe we thought he would early in the year, when sometimes you need to see these guys in the backfield to prove themselves in terms of blockers, runners, pass catchers, etc. But he's doing everything right now. So I think that it's possible that Singletary ends up getting a lot of work as a rookie. And if he does, he ultimately could end up rushing for more yards than LeSean McCoy and being the team's leading rusher. That includes a quarterback, Josh Allen, who I think teams will have spies out more often, or be more aware of his running abilities. So it wouldn't shock me. McCoy has a lot of, you know, he's had a lot of rushes in his career. Same with Frank Gore, obviously. So if you're looking for a guy to come in and kind of be those fresh legs for the team in 2019, Singletary could be and probably should be that guy.
All right, guys, it's been a long off season. I am ready for some football. In 1 month, we will be at St. John Fisher College, taking you guys through training camp to preseason and regular season. Ryan, as always, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
And for all your Buffalo Bills content, guys, keep it locked on the NYup, Syracuse.com.